Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Endpoints Podcast, a game of champions. We're on the third edition now. We're getting them in at this time. My name is Zoot. I'll be hosting today's show, and with me, I'm joined by three special people. First, I want to just say hello and welcome. Get the intros in. We've got Zenaku. What's up, man?
Hey, on Zoot. Thanks for having me on the show today. Should be pretty fun.
Absolutely. We got Xron as well from Ukraine.
Hello, Zolto.
How do I do pronouncing your name?
Chron.
Xron.
Chron.
It's like going to come up at some point, so I just got to make sure I'm nailing it. And Av3k, as always, the endpoint homeboy.
Well, does it matter how you pronounce it now if you did it wrong for 2 years?
I did
Hello,
it
guys.
For
Hello,
8 years.
hello.
I did it wrong for
For
like
8
7 years.
Oh,
I think I played Quake for like 8
That's even
years. So
worse.
8 years, yeah.
I've not done tremendously well. I wanna go a little bit deeper into some introductions. So I'm going to be starting with Zenaku in this. By the way, guys, right at the end of the show, we are going to be doing some questions from chat. So if you want to think about them, then that's all groovy. So I want to start with your background a bit, Zenaku. You're obviously from down under, down in Australia. What's it? Firstly, before I go into a little bit more detail, at what point did you start with Quake?
I probably started with Quake just before Quake Live came out. So I think Quake Live was like 2011, 2012, or probably 2010. But just before Quake Live came out, I played like Quake 3 for about a month. And I literally just started from there. I actually played Call of Duty 4 just before then. And then I just really wanted to play like a 1v1 game. So, and then ever since then, yeah, I just like grinded. I mean, very early on, Quake Live had a lot of promise. So I played like for a year and a half. And then after that, I don't know, tournaments kind of died off. So I was just a bit, I just like switched game, played like StarCraft 2 for a little bit. And then as soon as Quake Champions came, like was re-announced, I just like started to get back into it straight away. So.
I see, because I mean, I was curious. We know a lot of other names from the Australian scene. I'm thinking Python, dandaking, Phrase, even his brother Kama, who have all been notable. Like, how is it? I guess for people who are rising through the Australian scene, you're kind of in the shadow of these players. How's it been for you, kind of going up towards that and then excelling and then getting into the Quake Pro League?
I think like I guess respect where it's meant to be due. Like I guess back when I was still improving or grinding as a player, like those guys were definitely better than I was. And I kind of forgot the question actually.
It's like you're in the shadow of a lot of players to start with, and I wonder, is it difficult to get out of that? You're obviously now in the limelight and representing the whole Australian scene. But how is that transition period from being not heard of to being heard of and getting rid of all these other scrubs?
I'll be honest, it was actually like very frustrating, especially because of like Australian culture and how, like, in my opinion, like how dandaking and Steej kind of like act. Like, trust me, they made sure that I knew that I was like the third best player. But now, like, I guess now it's my time to shine. I guess it's only a matter of time. Like, I kind of create this experience, but yeah, it was shit because because it was always frustrating to see, like, especially the forum posts where you see like, oh, how's dandaking and Steej doing, and then you just like kind of an afterthought. But yeah, no, it's good now. So
no, I feel you.
Well, I also digged into an Instagram of Zenaku like yesterday or before yesterday, and I've seen that he had something in common with League of Legends, right? Like a group of your friends were playing League of Legends and then you were going out or something like this. So you actually started with League of Legends and then you started to play in Quake, or you played both of these games at once at the same time?
It's so funny. Like, I don't know. I'm sure everybody else had the same thing, but my high school friends and I, we pretty much played like 2,000 casual games of League of Legends within like 12 months or something. It was fucking ridiculous. But to be honest, like that was not. I didn't play that competitively. I really just like pumped the casual games, and that was just like a whole bunch of fun. But I think I really took competitively seriously when I played like StarCraft 2 and Quake Champions. But yeah, in between that, it was kind of like a gray area where I just didn't do much.
Yeah.
Fair play. I want to ask a bit about Hron's background. I know, Hron, that you've been into CS. And when you'll have to remind me when you actually started Quake, but it felt like you were playing for fun. You had some interesting like duel results. Give me the sort of rough story. I don't know. I want to say 2010. Tell me how off the mark I am.
Well, I just was playing CS 1.6 with friends usually, and Quake was something I launched first time I think in 2011, I think. And just when I was bored, I was playing like some tournaments or some TDM pickups back then, and just like that, I was playing and getting better. But I didn't like commit or play like super much back then.
So, because I remember speaking to you from time to time, you seem to be just super relaxed about the whole thing. But you'd be the type of person who would just turn up to a tournament, you'd take a map off Evil, and then you'd disappear for a couple more weeks. And I don't know, I felt like you were this sort of free spirit. And then suddenly Quake Champions comes along and you're actually attacking it really hard, becoming Quake World Champion. What happened to make you sort of it felt like so careless and then suddenly everything was on the line?
Well, in the end of Quake Live, when I was like playing and being able to like beat some of the top players, it was like already not much tournaments going and not much things, so it was like hard to commit and go hard into the game. But when Quake Champions was announced and there was like this all hype with Quakecon and 1 million, of course I tried to like go hard on it because I felt that like everyone is in equal condition, right? Because game is new and I have like my chances, so that's why I like started to take it seriously.
And Avek, for you, because you've been around the longest out of all of us here in Quake, when did you start becoming aware of both of these players, Zenaku and Xron?
Well, actually, what is the funniest story is that I didn't meet Kron through Quake, but we've met like after the Quake Life was already like basically with no tournaments, and I started to hang out with you, with Ins, with some like people we all knew with Kron, and I think first time we met on some TeamSpeak like playing CS. I was like trying to play CS:GO, and I think Kron was coming to play with us sometimes. I think that was the very first time when we started to like. Talk with each other and play from time to time, and then our like relationship became bigger and we became friends just in like Quake Champions. We also like talk with each other like during like Overwatch times, because after like Quake Live there was like Overwatch. Ron was also playing a lot of Overwatch, so in the end we also spoke with each other like from time to time. We watched some streams, and in Quake it just like we started to hang out and we started to like spend more time. We were having the same flights, like for example to Quakecon 2019, so we always tried to book our fights together. Also, I think our like shit schedule helped us a lot, because like it was only two players who were sometimes waking up at 5 p.m. and then we started to watch other players' streams. We started to hang out and laugh and then play, and also stand in for our 2v2 teams if our partners were like slacking and things like this. And we were also like planning to actually play together at some time like in 2v2, but we never had the chance for that, because
I thought you
because Hron like was like signed to Maestro back then, and he was playing with someone else. I was like in the beginning I was in Virtus Pro with Cypher, which I was happy about, but afterwards when I found out that Cypher has problems with visa and he cannot go to Quakecon to USA, I knew that I have to find second player really fast, and that was the time when I was really trying hard to get the chance to play with Hron, because we always have like good results online, and there was always this good spirit in 2v2. I think it's the mix of the styles which were working pretty well in that. But then, as you know, I end up with Kilsen in team, and I'm also happy about it as well.
Didn't you play with Xron briefly for like a couple? I feel like you did for a couple of really small online tournaments.
Yeah, of course. Every time we
Okay,
get the
yeah.
chance to like team up and play, like when someone of our teammates was not there, then we always were playing that, and we were winning those events, I think.
I think you're unbeaten.
Yeah, we were unbeaten couple. like Rafa and the Hang, but on the internet,
What about Zenaku? When did you start becoming aware of him as a player?
Yeah, Zenaku. I know in the pretty late actually in Quake Champions, of course. I didn't know about Zenaku before. I knew he was coming to some events. I already can't remember if it was DreamHack 2017 or 18 or even both. So I was already aware of him. He was playing at one of them, I think, in Sacrifice Team, right?
2017.
Yeah. So, but we never really spoke on that events, So as soon as I found out that he's coming to Europe, to Poland actually, to play and try to get into the league, then I was like, fuck yeah, this is a great idea. I really dig this idea. The guy is moving from Australia to Poland to try to play in the QPL league because Australia didn't get the slot. First of all, it's like good for like name of Quake and for social media. The story is great. Because it says that someone really cares about the game, and second of all, it's like says a lot about his personality. So then I started to like message him and talk with him, and I tried to get to know him better, because before, as I said, we never really spoke with each other on LANs and things like this. So we never knew each other that much before.
Yeah, fair play. I want to start talking a little bit more about the Quake Pro League now. Zenaku, I want to ask a bit more about your story. There's a question here that I can't avoid asking. You moved from Australia to Poland, which is awesome to compete in the Quake Pro League, but
why with Lura? Why with Lura?
To be honest, actually, the lure thing is well, actually, there's not many like people who want to take Quake to that level, so that's why Lura kind of like said, I need someone to split the rent, otherwise I can't fucking pay for all this shit.
No, I'm just joking. Lura is a great guy. I just know what kind of questions Zoot wants to ask because I know about this question. So
okay,
yeah, I shared the script with Avik. Yeah, I want to ask. You played when you arrived in Poland. You played both the EU and the NA Challenger League or qualifier or whatever you call it. I think you played both of them the same weekend as well. And you're playing in Poland, EU base, but we know that there's like some ambiguity around how people from around the world, based on where they're from, kind of get slotted into everything.
Right.
What's just tell me what's going on here. Tell me what's happened.
Okay. I'll be honest, like even for me to I made sure before I came here that like I messaged Tokyo and I messaged 04 and I was like, hey, I'm just making sure if I like what's the conditions of if I make it into the EU bracket, can I not play in NA, or what's the solution for that, or can I even play on NA from EU? And they said it was like it was okay. I think the conditions were like if I made it in the EU bracket, I would move to EU, which I was actually like wanting to do that. Or if I made into the NA bracket, I'd move to NA actually, like straight after like stage 2. And then afterwards, they were kind of just like, it's okay.
Oh, really?
So there wasn't really much like discussion about that. And I was like, sweet, I get to practice against all these great European players, and I still get to play on NA, even though with like the ping. But
you get everything. You get the best of both worlds there. How is the ping actually? Because you've got to play what 100 to 150 ping every weekend. How does that work?
To be honest, like I feel sometimes you really do get hard done by like, you'll shoot a rocket after you die, and it just like the rocket's clearly fired and just does no damage. But I've been finding that like, and that's why stage 3 finals are so great, because you get to see like that even the players that are at the very, very best, there is no excuse. The reason why you lose is because you're at the wrong position at the wrong time taking damage. And I guess like that's why I really built my game playing that way. But then you play like, I'll still have like practice games versus Rafa, and it's just like he'll just make you look like shit. And then we'll play like one time we actually played opposite server. I was on low ping, he was on high ping, and he still fucking destroyed me. So I was like, all right, well, I love that, because I like as soon as like before the game started, I'm like, oh sweet, now's my chance to really like turn the tide. And it was still like, I don't know, 15-0 or something. But anyway, something to think about. So
yeah, fair play. I'm going to get to Xron in a second, but I just want to follow up on this while we're on the topic. Avek, you've got a fellow pro in Poland. You've already mentioned it anyway. And it's not someone that you play against weekly, like competitively. is this an ideal practice partner for you? Are you guys going to go to LAN post-COVID? I don't actually know how close you are together in Poland. But...
Well, before the last stage, I was planning to actually go to their apartment to play from there and like maybe come like a few days earlier
Sweet.
and practice there because we had some good sessions of practice before Katowice and I really liked it. You know, I think we both like understood something from the game because the good thing about Zenaku is that he always like comes to you after the games and he tries to discuss the game, what went good, what went wrong. It also pushes you to think and then you find new things. So I think this is really good about him. Like when you practice with him, so it works for two players. I actually decided not to go because that was the time where like the most cases of COVID in Poland were actually taking the place in the nearest city to where Zenaku is right now. So
Wow.
from what I was hearing in the news, like the president of this area was like thinking about like closing only this like area of the Poland and
Wow.
making the rest of the Poland like open because the cases in other parts of Poland were like really low, you know. So he wants to close that. In the end, they didn't decide to do that, of course. But I was like, man, I'm gonna go there, and then I'm stuck there for like 2 months, and I need to, you know, live with them, like, and you know, I will be a big problem because it's not the problem if I go there like to visit them for 5 days, we practice, and then we play, and then I, you know,
Yeah.
go back to my city, but there was a chance that I'm actually gonna be stuck there. So, and this time, as I said, I'm like building my PC. I'm like getting like still like waiting for RAM. So I'm trying to get like a really strong PC for like finals. So that's one thing, and another thing which I want to change is my internet. So now I'm trying to get the IP of the server of like Central, so I can get this IP, I can write it down, and I can go to all providers around me,
Wow.
and I
Okay.
can like ping that, right? So then if I'm able to get like normal internet here, then I'm gonna play from, you know, my place because it's gonna be more comfortable, of course. But if not, then I will probably have to speak with Zenaku and I'm gonna go to their place and maybe play finals from there. And obviously, I would like to go there like few days earlier and practice
Sweet.
with him. Also, like on Katowice, I had the idea that maybe if we have 1 day free, we could like very fastly go back to their apartment and get like 2-3 hours of playing. But you know, it's like you are on the event all the time. Going back and forward would be like really difficult, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
later on, I would like to ask Zenaku a question about the practice regime and things like this because I think it's like interesting for people. But go ahead with your question to Xron, I guess.
I'll allow it just because I feel like we've been making Ron lonely. I know he got up late.
He's gonna fall asleep. He just
Yeah.
it's difficult for him to sit there probably.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Ron, you had Quakecon 2019. You had a pretty amazing finish. Honestly, it was one of the toughest tournaments I think we've ever had in Quake. The top 5, I believe. It's in my notes. Been pretty strong for most of it, but then obviously things didn't go well down in stage 3. What happened? How are things going to go differently next time? Explain.
Well, I think that QuakeCon 2019 was like very good because we had a boot camp with Avak for like 3 weeks in NA. So I kinda had to play the game. I don't think that we played that much, but like we always like spoke about the game. Like even when things were like going super bad and we were like losing all pracs, we would go like to some cafe and still discuss the game, like why it was wrong, and like also there was Nosfa, so it was like really fun to practice and discuss like all the things like between ourselves. So I think like this practice schedule like really helped me to do good. Even though like before event I didn't think that I will do good because my practice results were like super inconsistent because like in that internet cafe we had like a lot of internet issues. That game was like dropping us out of the lobby and so on.
Right.
So it was like really stressing to practice sometimes and like really tilting. But in the end, it all went really good, and I managed to get like some good consistent results. And later, like every LAN, I don't know, like in Italy, I think it was okay. I just it was like single elimination bracket, and my second opponent was Cypher, and he like just played better. I can't like say that it was like super bad from me or something. He really played amazing tournament. He wrecked me, and he won versus Rafa. Like I don't like feel bad for losing that tournament. And in stage 3 finals, or no, then it was Katowice, right? Katowice was also fine for me. I finished top 8, but stage 3 finals where I was like relegated, it was online tournament, and online tournament is like always different, like totally different. Heroes are like good because of like different way, like how rocket works and so on. And I just feel that I'm not really well adapted to it. Like I always struggle lately in my online games. And for example, before in Quake Champions, like in 2017-18, I was like winning a lot of things online. But last year it changed. Like I suck online, and most of my games are like losses, like without any chances. And I don't really know like how to improve it, because like on LAN, I feel like everything is like smooth. I have chances against anyone, but online, it just some things doesn't click for me.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It maybe some mental thing.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to say, that it's a lot about mental thing, because I don't know why when you go into LAN, you know that it's really important. You see all the cameras, you see all the people, and it's like it's making you nervous actually at some point, that you really need to perform really good. And then you're playing online, and you know it's the game is slightly different, as Kron said, that you might have some issues or someone might have advantage on you. Then you already something clicking in your mind, and then I don't know, maybe it's really hard to like become like nervous at home, you know, and like and like, because some players when they are becoming nervous it works against them, and I think I really like to become nervous because it works for me, and I try harder. I don't really like, you know, give up in like very bad situations. I try to survive as much as I can, and maybe that's also the point. So I
Yeah.
think we all of us learning right now, like because of the situation, how to adapt on online games.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because you were basically exclusively LAN for a period, I imagine. Especially the very old school times, it was all about boot camping and LAN only, and you'd almost avoid practicing online for it. But anyway, that's besides the point. Yeah, how is this different now? You've just made it into the challenges, Hron, and you're going to be in the final. I think we saw that you're on the same side of the bracket as Garpi. Um, you excited for the a hopeful stage 4 final? I guess that's a step beyond. You know, first of all, you've got to get to that point. But yeah,
I don't like set some goals or high expectations. I just wanna play and have fun and see like how it goes. I'm not like aiming high, you know. I just wanna have fun and see how it goes, pretty much.
fair enough. So it's like almost a sort of traditional. I don't know, the cliche sense of, you know, one game at a time, and you're not like, I'm going to be the king or whatever. So you can have a really sort of diplomatic interview. And so yeah, I'm only thinking about one game, and it's like, actually no, it's really true. I don't care beyond each game.
Well, because it's gonna come down to one game anyway, because he needs to
Yeah.
like beat the pro
That's
if he
true.
wants to get to the finals again.
Actually, there's an interesting point here. There's a bit of a sidetrack for where I was going, but Zenaku, because you've played trying to get in, and you've also defended against Maxter last time. How does it feel each side of the coin?
It's definitely harder to defend than it is to
Really?
as if you're coming into it. Yeah. I don't know, because it just feels like the person who you're fighting, who you're playing against, is like has much more incentive to try and beat you, and it feels like as a mental thing, you're trying to hold on to something, whereas they're just like, you know, I don't know. They know where you are, but you don't know where they are in a sense. It's yeah.
So when you came in, were you just like super hungry for it, and you know, is that why you felt maybe empowered to get? Who did you actually beat to get in? I can't remember.
G-Nick.
You beat G-Nick. Yeah. Did you just feel you had a mental advantage over him at that point?
I think I was like in both. Well, I think just the current situation where like I'm pretty much playing honestly full time. So I think I'm just like I already feel like I have a confidence advantage because I'm literally doing absolutely everything I can to maximize that. But I'd say like in the Maxter game in particular, I knew that I could only had to play so like be focused 100% of the time, especially because like the ping, like we're both on high pings, so like the game just becomes even worse at some situations. So it's like I think before the game started, I already accepted that like dumb shit was going to happen, and just kind of played with that.
Wait, so you were playing for Poland. He was playing from Argentina. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what server were you on?
NA East.
Holy crap! It's just it's just and like it has to happen, right? I mean, you guys have got to connect on a level playing field, but it's it's not ideal conditions. So yeah, and I don't even remember what that's like. I play on high ping sometimes, but normally it's only one person because there's no reason to play on high ping. So it's almost how. Did you actually have to prepare yourself for that in a way? Did you try to simulate high ping versus high ping, or did you just kind of just knock it out anyway because you're used to one side of it being high ping?
I think I just really played because the thing is like when I play versus all the Euros, they always like push the game to another level. So I'll be honest, I actually still played on like low ping because it was kind of like if I play versus somebody who does this level of thinking or play and someone else plays below that, then it's like just taking the weights off. It's like much easier to deal with. But you do have to really think like, especially when there's two high ping players, it's like, especially when you're running away, because I feel like the pings kind of add. So especially like you really have to think if I receive damage, you actually have to wait till you receive the damage until you can do it again.
Yeah.
Because like otherwise it just your screen goes like just crazy. But yeah, was practicing on low ping pretty much.
I see. Okay. Well, it makes, especially given the talent pool that you've got around you to practice. I mean, I think most people hope for that kind of practice partners that you can build. Here's a kind of like open topic because we've got a sort of wide diversity here of people with different length Quake careers. Essentially, we've got Av3k's career, that's like what 400 years old now. Xron's is I'd say start of Quake Champions is probably the most fair, but I'd say that you've been playing at a high level for definitely longer than that, given the results you were getting in Quake Live. And then Zenaku, I'd say you're still pretty fresh in the pro environment, if you don't mind me saying that.
Yeah.
Are there advantages or disadvantages to being at different levels of junior or seniorness? I don't really know. I'll go with Av3k first because he's always got something to say, but is there is there like a difference that you feel that this guy's really hungry? I've got to watch out for him. He's not been around as long, and maybe you take things for granted. Do you know where I'm coming from, Av3k?
Well, of course, like every newcomer is more hungry than the old guy who's playing, but I think it comes down to like to your personal motivation. If you are motivated enough and you're putting the work you need to do, I think it doesn't really matter if you are a newcomer or not. I think age is like a bigger factor actually, because like it's also at some like examples, because from what I know from myself, like when I was like younger and the way I played was completely different than now, because I was like really careless. I didn't fear anything. Like I had no doubts in myself. So I was basically coming and I could win, and that's it. I never thought about it. Like with age, you like it's same like with kids. Kids like are really good at many things because they don't understand the failure in life. They never like experience failure before, so they also never experience fear before, because kids are always protected, they are going easy way and things like this. So this is like building their momentum. It's even making them like better, stronger mentally and things like this. And like the older you are, like you are aware of like much more stuff, like of the failure and actually the fear. So that's the only difference. But if you are a professional, you already know how to handle that, right? So it also doesn't really matter.
Yeah, Zenaku, Xron, I don't know what one of you jump in. Do you guys get a different feeling going against people who are much more experienced long term, or do you not? Maybe you don't even think about it.
I don't think that like I care about it that much about like my opponent, but like personally, I think it's like all like in your head and it's all individual. Like I think even if you're like older, you can motivate yourself, or you can find the ways to motivate yourself. Like you just need to know what you want and like go for it.
Yeah. Anything to add, Zenaku?
I just feel like when I play against people that are more experienced, it just feels like they're just kind of playing with me. I mean, like they're literally just like toying with me, kind of thing. So I feel like, I mean, that could just be like literally a skill difference. But yeah, I'd say, I don't know why, I just get the feeling like when I play versus someone who's more experienced, it really just feels like they're just screwing around sometimes. But yeah.
Fair. So
well, it might be his imagination only. I don't think anybody
could be,
playing
yeah.
around with him because it's already to high level. And like when you speak about that, I just wanted to say that if we look at the results, I think like Zenaku is the guy with who improved the most since the beginning, in my opinion, because he started to put more winnings and more games, which he won. And I wanted to ask him like, what was like your like practice regime from the beginning? Did it change when you came to Europe, and is it different now? Do you think like you're like I mean, complex thing. Do you think like sleep matters? Do you think like physical activity matters? Your nutrition matters? Because like since you are close to the sport, so you may be taking like this sport approach. Like we also have like one organization in Poland which is coming from football, and they really like making sure their players like they living a life like sportsmen. So they have like nutritionists, they have like catering and things like this, psychologists, and they doing exercises. So what do you think about that? How much time you put into practice, into analyzing, watching the games, playing yourself, thinking about the game? As Xron said, like what helped us a lot on Quakecon 2019 was not necessarily practice only, because as he said, we didn't put as many hours into the game, but we were constantly 24/7 together, two players trying to get good results for next event. So even when we are already lying in the beds, we were still like talking something. He was like, man, scale, it's like you need like you will run out of OG when you him and things like this. And I'm like, yeah. And that it's like things like this are helping a lot.
Yeah. I think, I mean, just going for what you just said, then like I think that's why me coming with Lua, the other Australian player, is like actually helped me quite a bit, because we kind of just like create a pool of information. Even just like, if he sees something that I wouldn't see, or be like, oh, this champion on this map, and then we like literally sometimes we'll be watching a stream being played and kind of like predict how the frags will happen depending on like ability, who's in control, and what mistakes somebody will make or something. In terms of practice though, I think it changes over time. Like when I first came here, it was just playing against people that play differently, so it was like just play as many games as possible. Then it got to a stage where I would play versus base, or I would just play like better players than me. And how do I say, like that's when I started to really discover like the niche things, where it's like, fuck, because when I play versus base, there are times where I never see him, and it's like, well, how do you deal damage on somebody that you never see? and then all of a sudden, like I'll play versus Rafa, or I'll play well, actually Rafa in particular, where like I'll be in the wrong place at the wrong time for half a second and take a rail, and then it changes like the entire game. And it really starts to make you like, well, actually it's incredibly annoying, because at least I'm not sure how, like the way that I think about the game is very pattern orientated. So like if I play versus somebody who's really trying to mess that pattern up, it makes me confused, where it's like, fuck, something that I thought was right is now wrong. Now I don't know what's right, so I'll just stay here and end up like dying or something. But I would say, yeah, you really have to like, sometimes it's like it's an emotional thing. You would be like, oh, I can really feel like right now I should be playing a lot, or my mechanics are kind of letting me down. But I think a lot of the time it's like you kind of let's say maybe like every couple of days, or just like I say, it's kind of hard to gauge depending on how well you're going. But I really think the best thing is, you really got to increase the resistance. Like if somebody is playing a certain way, or like playing a champion very specifically, you really need to know how to beat that before the game's even started. And sometimes like you'll be playing a game and like you've already lost because you see something, by the time you've already figured out a solution, it's already too late. And I think the way that this game is designed with like the champions and how you can do things with the spawns, it's very like the bleeding's too quick before you can even come up with a solution.
Okay,
That's fair.
what about sleeping patterns, nutrition, and sport?
What kind of color underwear?
Everything outside around the
Blue.
game. Small or big?
Adequate. Anyway, I think I'll be honest, like, you know what's really interesting about this game is that nutrition, sport, and all those other things, I actually really think that like it has an impact, but I really don't think it's actually that big. Because the thing is, like, the decisions in this game are so, you know, you can, I think, I don't know, it's hard because you can't really define it, I would say, but like, I think the decisions that are made or like how actions are done, they're kind of, you can still replicate them, but not have to be in the best condition ever. You know, like, funnily enough, I was drinking the other day and I was like, I don't drink that often. I was playing and I was actually playing like fine. Like pretty much doing the exact same thing I would do if I wasn't like drunk. So,
for example, guys, it's a question to both of you. We have a tournament, right? Don't you think that playing without food, like when you are fasting, it's like much better for your brain? Because whenever I eat a big meal, with a lot of fat and carbohydrates, and I'm starting to get more sleepy, and my brain
Food
becomes more
coma.
lazy. So it's like, you know, it's pretty hard to play after a big meal. What do you think about that? If you go into tournament, I for example try to eat like very small in the morning, because I know that the game is gonna be going on for a very, very long time. So I don't want to go totally with empty stomach, but I'm just eating something like really fastly digested and really small. And I avoid caffeine at all because I know I will break down from caffeine after a few hours. So I avoid caffeine. I'm eating very small, and then I'm eating really big meal before sleep to get a good sleep for next day of LAN events. What do you think, Ron, about that? Like, do you think it has an impact?
Yeah, I'm like trying to not eat at all, and if I'm eating, I'm just eating some snacks, bananas, like chocolate or some things like that. I'm not like going for like big meals, unless it's like after like already games. That's why some events I don't really like the schedule when you like play when you have to wake up kind of at 7 a.m. and you like stay up and play like till 8 p.m. or something like that. It's really like exhausting because like then you need to eat something and like it's becoming a bit complicated. But yeah, ideally I'm trying like to not eat at all at the events, just drinking water and like as I said, banana snacks and so on.
I do the same. Actually, we have caterings on events, so we can eat whatever we want, and we have delicious food and lunches. And I always avoid them, even though I would like to eat them, right? Because there is something really delicious. But I always go there and I get some water, I get maybe tea, I get banana, I get some cookie, and that's it, basically. Even if there is like some cool meat or even beef and things like this, I just know that I will be knocked down after such meal for another few hours. It's impossible for me to play after big meals.
I'm gonna take the reins back on this off host Av3k. I wanted to add something interesting from earlier because I think there's probably a game. Maybe it's difficult for Av3k to think of just because it would have happened so long ago. But is there a? I'll give an example for myself first. But is there like a game that stands out to you on your way to becoming a pro that made you feel like this is a good benchmark life here and there's a really strong step into becoming a better player? For me, my example would be I played a Windsong Keep Cup in Quake Live back in, I don't know, 2012 or something like that. It was this new map. No one ever plays it anymore or anything like that. I remember practicing versus Vu. Tournament comes around and I managed to beat Backstein, who at that point was quite a good up-and-coming player. And I lost to Vu after, but I ended up coming third in the tournament. To me, I was like, oh my, like I'm not going to be a pro at all, but I was really proud, you know. Does anyone else have a game?
I thought you found out back then that this is the time when you're going to become pro.
No, definitely not. I still definitely just a scrubby caster, but I don't know. Does anyone need some time to think about one? And does anyone want to go first? I don't know if anyone's ever thought about it that way, but maybe I...
Well, I think there are like a lot of like games on your career that, like, at least for me, it was that, as you remember from Quake Live, right? That like sometimes I was coming and winning. I think I didn't like. I can't say that these games like made me think or like change something, but it was helping me to build confidence. Like, okay, I
Yeah.
can beat this guy. Next tournament, I win like some other like top player, and I'm like, okay, I can beat these guys. They're not like immortal or something.
Yeah.
So I think just by winning better players or players like higher caliber than you just slowly build confidence, which in the end like making you better player because you're not like so passive at some moments. Now you know that you can be better and so on.
Yeah. Is it
So I think
is
it just all adds up, but I can't say that I have like some games that I will.
so it's not it's like maybe evil is an example of it, but it's not like something stands out
Yeah,
for you
yeah.
as a sign of that. Zenaku, do you have anything for you that stands out? Or maybe a series of games, I don't know.
I think like it was when 2v2 was a thing back like in 2018. Me and this other Australian player called Murder beat dandaking and Steej in like a 3-0 in like this 2v2 tournament, and I guess like that was kind of nice because I'm not sure. I think they were actually like playing a lot, and like we were really. I think we wanted to beat them more than they wanted to beat us for sure.
Mm.
And I think like not so much like did I think that like I don't know. I've always kind of thought that high of my level in a sense. I've always been confident with that, but that was kind of just like a nice. We put in the effort, and they were putting in the effort, and we won. And it's
Yeah.
like two people when both teams are like putting high amounts, and you come out on top. That's when it was like really satisfying, I guess.
For sure, the gravity of the names as well. I mean, you were mentioning at the start how like they would make you know that you're third best at that point, so you beat them, and it's like, well, up yours, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Avik, have you got anything? This would be looking into more ancient Quake
Well,
folklore.
in the beginning when I started to play with Quake 3, and of course back then Russians were the champions and like Cooler and other players, and I became like really good really fast, same as Xron. And I don't know if you remember a Swedish player like Fuki.
Yeah,
He
I
was
remember.
he was pretty really good back then. He was winning some European championships and becoming one of the better players. So I managed first time when I realized that I might be really good like internationally is like when I won European online event with Fuki in the final, and then like right after that there was Quake 4 coming up. Like forever came to me and he said that there is like organization which want to sign me and for Quake 4. So I was like 14 years old and I already had a contract. So I was like, this thing is going serious, right? And then Polish Polish company, Polish creative company, like the company which Fatality was working
Mm.
with, right?
Right.
Creative. They contacted me and they organized show match in Quake 4. It was new game against Cooler. So they brought Cooler to Poland, and we were playing like on PGA. It was one of the biggest like esport conventions in Poland back then, and I was like first time I met him in real life. First time
How old were you?
15,
Oh.
15, and we played best of 3, and he won first map. And I won second map, and whole Polish public went fucking crazy, man. It was like they were screaming, they were throwing things. I was 15 years old on the stage, and I won the map against Cooler, and I was like, this is crazy. And after that, I started to win basically most of the events in Quake 4. So I went to Net Games, I won it. I went to like Gathering, then DreamHack, then like WSVGs and things like this.
So was that match with Cooler? Would that be because I don't know if rivalry is the right word, but you versus Cooler is like a classic matchup in Quake. Was that the start of it, or do you think the start was a bit later on?
I think that was really the beginning of it, right?
Really?
Because like after that, 2 years after that, I won like the championship on ESWC against him in the final. So I think, and yeah, that was pretty big match for me because there was some like I remember Creative made some, they put some good money on the line, and they made it the show really really nice, and well, it was a great event, and first time I played him on LAN and in front of such big crowd. So it helped me later on to like don't feel like really stressed.
Fair play, fair play. I want to talk about some more like personal game stuff before I'm gonna move the top. It'll still be about Quake, but just a different side of it. I want to talk just a bit about the mental game. We've approached it already. Has the mental game grown for you guys? Have you guys gotten stronger with your mental game over the years and the time that you've been practicing? Xron, like, I think we touched on it already, how serious you took it when you got to Quake Champions. How do you feel like you've grown psychologically with this?
I think that still like most important part for me was that it was fun to compete, and still like the only reason I play is just because it's fun to compete. And like Quake Champions had team play, so it was like super fun and nice for me to play. So in addition to like team play and having fun, I had like this duel and like trying to get better and so on.
So the more you had fun, the more you felt motivated, confident.
Yeah, it was like all adding up, and it was like it's really nice to do something you like, and that's like how it felt for me. So that's why it was like super good, and I felt that I'm growing. Now I would say it's harder because there is no team play anymore, and duel is like I like to compete, but it's really hard for me to put hours in and practice specifically duel because it's like I don't know, it's just very exhausting and so on compared to, for example, team play and like previous years. So I feel like this is like where I struggle right now because I just can't find some good balance of like playing duel and like putting good work practice, but in the end I still want to compete, you know, and want to beat. But of course if you don't practice enough, you can't like win, you know. So I'm like trying to find some good balance and hoping for best.
Yeah, fair
But
play.
yeah, it's like in the end I think like I'm growing as a player, and like I know what I'm doing, and I'm satisfied with all my mental things at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Zenaku, you've actually probably got the most fresh memory of this. You know, you've been growing as a player the most recently. How have things changed for you? You've also massively changed environments. That's surely got to play a part in it.
I'll be honest, I'm actually not too sure. Like, I think a part of it that really, like, why I think that like how Xron actually like talks is actually fine in his sense because of like, you know, different people at different times will like want to practice or do play a certain amount, and it's actually like reflective of how much they should play, in my opinion. Not like there's no like positive or negative for that, but like for me, you know, like Jean was saying, like, oh, he finds it that to want to practice sometimes can be like a bit of a chore, whereas like, you know, for however many years in Australia, it's like it was hard to get a good game, or when you did, it was like for 2 hours on like a Friday night or something. Like, so now when you come here, it's like you know, it's like I can get whatever I want all the time, and it's good. And it's like you know, you're much more motivated to play. And I'd be curious to see if like in a couple of years, if I'm still this motivated to want to play. But yeah, I forget where I was going with that.
It's definitely too much drinking last 2 days.
Yeah,
But that serves as a different motivation for you because it's a good point you bring up. If you've got the quality of games, it's like you have access to it all the time now. And I've heard, you know, countless stories. It's difficult to be an Australian who wants to become a professional player. It's just the geographic, you know, lack of fortune essentially. Just before you go, Av3k, when you were rising and when you know, before you were in the Quake Pro League, did you have a different approach to how you thought about the game compared to now when you're in the Quake Pro League and you got a competitive match every week?
I think like I've always really taken the game very similar, like every match, like how I kind of think about it. But actually, that's what I was going to say before, and then I already forgot. It was like the type of it's really interesting, like different parts of the world and how people will approach the game and how how they want to win and stuff like that. And that's why I think that like dandaking and Steej are actually like really good competitors. Actually, like as like if they were actually sports people, I think that they would be very, very good, just like the way that they think. But I think the way that generally Australians think, or like, and we can, okay, let's say like some people in NA or like people that complain a lot, then when they lose, fuck,
You said it.
oh shit. Anyway, well, like let's say like when you lose a game and it's just like you're I don't know. I feel like there's lack of responsibility. You don't want to say like I screwed up,
Right.
and I think that like I don't know. At least for me, I actually still am quite an emotional player, and I think that that's not to some extent that's good, to some extent that's bad. But I think you want to get to a place where like you're experiencing it, but you're still playing to full capacity. Whereas for a lot of people, it's like, and you can really feel it. I feel like the higher you get to the top, you can really notice like straight away how somebody's moving and what they're doing. That like this person's experiencing frustration and how you can act, like how you can do stuff about that. Um, but I like sometimes I do that really well, and other times I'm that guy that's just like spamming spacebar to spawn instantly and then die to a rail or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happens to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Av3k, what about you?
Well, I just more wanted to ask question, but before that, like I think practice, like Ron said, it's like it's not really like the most important. The most important like is what you get from it, right? Because in practice you can learn some specific things, right? You can, but for example, you can learn how to force spawns, which will be like very necessary later in your on your like LAN event or like finals. Second of all, you learn the champion matchups, right? Then you learn some little things like which gun you can abuse. For example, like when we bootcamped on in Texas, and Hron realized that, for example, tribal is really strong on Awoken. He started to use it
I
a lot.
hate his tribal.
He told me that, and then Nosfa heard it. He heard it just walking through. And can you imagine next time I play Nosfa, he's using only tribal in Awoken. And then, man, you are just like walking copy pasta, like everything you hear, like you are doing. Like Hron played him with Scale Bearer. Next day, like Nosfa is playing only Scale on all maps. I'm like, man, you are hilarious. And so things like this, it's like it's little things which is helping you. But sometimes you are repeating mistakes over and over again, and you need to really think about it. And sometimes little thing is switching everything. Same was in Sacrifice. Many teams just like did like a bit of a switch in something, in some really minor detail, right? And straight away the team started to play on 2 levels higher, right? I think Ron can say more about it, but Sacrifice was really good example that you switch little things, like let's like do something together or do this or that, and everything was switching, like totally switching.
You just abused spawns, didn't you, Hron? You were just exploiting the game for everything it was
Of course. Yep,
worth.
that's true.
And Latromi wouldn't talk. Claus didn't want to be spoken to. I don't know. He was just like this maverick.
It's
And you
okay.
and
Kyle
Silence
was doing everything.
yeah. Silence was the hard carry. Yeah, I want to ask a bit now. This is more sort of feedback related. I think it's because Avik, myself, Kelson spoke about it last time for this hypothetical second year of Quake Pro League. And it's interesting because we've got someone like Hron who's not in the Quake Pro League too, so we can get. I wonder if he's got anything like different to say. Anything that you guys want to hope for a potential second year, Zenaku?
I mean, just hope that like the league continues. But I mean, it kind of, I guess like people that play arena FPS really have to be kind of reactive to it, like kind of just like kind of like Xron or what these other players do, where you can play multiple games. But yeah, just hope that it like kind of continues.
Would you have any sort of, because one thing which I think might be relevant on your side is that the points carry on each season, and it feels
Right.
like if you jump in, and you qualify, then you're still kind of on the edge, and you really have to like win as much as possible. Otherwise, you might be up for relegation. I mean,
Right.
is this something you'd want to address if, in a hypothetical second year?
Yeah, I mean, I can say from experience that like after stage 2, like in the duration of stage 3, and like already seeing how many points it was behind, how hard it was to already get a 3-0, like just in general, how hard it was to get a 3-0. It was like, man, the people two above me would have to be literally have to get no points for me to be able to win.
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely needed to be reset. Um, I will just really say that in this last season though, it is good though that like now it's in a nice spot, because when players do bad, it's even worse. But the fact that the points double means that if I get a map win, it's like, oh shit, now I'm actually in higher in points, because like, well, now the people above me actually did do worse, and now I'm actually in a good spot.
Yeah.
But it needs to be even, throughout, I think.
That's fair. That's fair.
Mm.
Hron, what about any wish list for a second year?
I don't even know. Like, I would like to see a lot of maybe things. Like personally, me, I just would like to play some 2v2 or team play because it's just fun for me. And yeah, and maybe switching of format to some monthly tournaments or something instead of like league, because I really liked what we had with 2v2 in 2018 in the way that there was ESL tournaments
Mm.
and then you had monthly finals, and I think it's really good. I like the idea that there are like players who are professionals and being paid and they can like dedicate their time to the game, but I think it's not a bad idea to let other players, let's say, qualify for some tournaments and play against pro players.
Mm.
I think it's healthy competition if, let's say, there will be weekly or monthly tournaments where you will have players from pro league, even not like all of them, like some can have like week offs like we have right now, and there will be 8 pro league players from you and 8 people who qualified through some tournament like
Yeah.
qualifier, and then you have monthly finals between these players where pro league players just like play for the points and contenders play for something else. I don't know, like, but I just think that it's more fun for viewers to see an actual tournament where you can have bracket and winner, which is more simply to understand than watching like league, where a lot of people still ask me till today like how does this point work, what to do. I think like it's always better to simplify things, because for pro players it doesn't matter, like we can adjust to anything, right? But the more simple things are, the better it is for like global viewers and so on.
Mm. That's fair. Avek, have you got anything to ask on top, or maybe you've got something to add from what you've previously said?
Well, I just want to agree with Hron that the biggest problem right now is that not many people have chance to play against pros, because it's basically only one guy, and in Europe it's same 2 or 4 guys all the time. So in this case, what Hron suggested is like you have much more players who can be motivated to beat the pros, right? You have a lot of like medium skill players who play every day. Every day I see people playing like. I don't know, on streams like Pete Demon, for example, playing a
Yeah,
lot of duels.
there's
He could
tons of them.
easily go and try to like compete with pros, right? Why not? And right now he doesn't have a chance, because he needs to be one of 2 best European challengers to even have a chance to play against pro and then get to the pro league. So that's the one downside, which I agree with Ron should be changed.
That's a good point.
And tournament format definitely can change it. And it can be very often. It can be like for example every 2 weeks. Why not? It's
Yeah.
nothing. There's nothing against that. You can have like same for you can have same games in different format also every week, every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a problem in running a bracket for a whole day and making like making a show instead of like doing a league.
Yeah. Um, Guys, I'm going to open to the floor. So anyone in Twitch chat, if you've got some questions you'd like to ask, start thinking about them. But I'm gonna ask another very typical question of these podcasts. Quake, obviously staple arena FPS. There's a potential competitor, Diabotical, that's around the corner. We suspect. Any thought they're planning on having esports? It might be more team focus. Zenaku, have you got any thoughts on Diabotical and maybe a possible approach, or are you not really bothered?
I think from personally, like I'd rather be very good at one thing. Like I'm not even the best at one thing, so I think it's bad for me to like just switch to something else before I've like really achieved my goal 1st.
Mhm.
It looks I actually genuinely like the game, but I just don't think it's something that I would play. Not right now, anyway.
I see.
Mm.
What about you, Ron? I know they're planning more team stuff, and you've been talking about you have a stronger affinity with team games. Is it your cup of tea?
I mean, there are so many promises and ideas in different games. I'm also like have things to do in Apex Legends, so I can't really like plan ahead. I need to wait for like real announcements. Play the game, play the team modes if there will be like any team modes. See if I like it, and then take a decision. Like it's hard for me to like
So
predict the future, especially with like all these things that there's like only online tournaments right now. Like
yeah.
it's impossible to plan anything, in my opinion.
So and I guess as a professional player, that's probably like the number one thing is you need there to be money on the line. You need there to be competition, and until you know what is the boundary of that, you can't really commit, I guess. And I suspect that'd be true for all of you. But yeah, Avik, again, you're probably tired of me bringing it up every week, but
Well, basically similar opinion to Hron as well, because first of all, we need some kind of announcement from Diabotical. Well, we need the game to be open, right? Because it's not open from what I know for now. And I'm also like waiting for like decision about the second year of the Quake Pro League, and then like checking out with their schedule, like how it looks like, and if we can like commit some time to another game.
yeah, I see. Okay. Well, while we wait for any possible questions to come in, we can mess about a little bit because there was that LG question that came in last week, and I think Avik and we've been speaking with like people love talking about aim and stuff, and love learning about it. Have you played much against Tox, Zenaku? Would you respond the same way in terms of how Kilson and Avik were so praising of Tox's aim? Do you feel like that's one of the hardest barriers to go against?
I mean, I think you can play around it, but I think that's what I was mentioning earlier about like playing against specific players and the stuff that they can do. Like the other day I was playing Tox and he was playing Visor and just like getting the LG and just running 100%. Like doesn't matter, just 100% in my direction. But when you're like the thing is with the acceleration and just how everything worked, that's actually such a bad play. But because he hit 50% while running and I couldn't hit him, it's fine. Like so, I think it's like the thing is you sacrifice something when you do something like that because you put yourself in a different position, this, that, and the other. But I think you can play around it. But at the same time, it's like he can create more scenarios that someone else can't, and I think that's really where his X factor is.
Yeah.
Well, you can even beat a cheater with aimbot if you know how to play and the guy doesn't know. But we're talking pure about aim. Do you think like Toxic's aim overall is the best, like with LG Raygun? Because we are talking about different kind of players, and we said that Toxic's aim is by far the best.
Is there someone else that you think might be better, or do you?
Like, if you don't think about the gameplay and what kind of mistake he does in the game, just like pure aim, like not even percentages, because it's also different kind of story, pure mechanical skills.
I think when you watch him play, I've never seen anybody else that aims like, even if he still misses the structure in which he's aiming, like I don't know how he would move or how he'd position his screen in a sense, like he does it the best than anybody for sure. I would say, yeah.
And Ron, I kind of used you as an example of some of the discussions that we've had in the past. Just that the amount of times people talk about how you kind of rely on Toxic making some mistakes because his aim alone is such a powerful asset. Do you hold him in that sort of royalty of aim?
Yeah, I think the Tox aim is like the most consistent and like best in Quake, I think.
Mm-hmm.
His only weakness from like any weapon is probably rocket launcher. Like even his like nail gun, which is also projectile, is like super strong.
Mm.
And like every other weapon, he's really like a machine. He's like the most consistent out of any other like top aimers.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And
so pure aim, I would say that he is best, but like maybe like because instead of aim, I personally like to use word called like combat skill,
Mm.
which is like how you can see how people fight in like 2v2 4v4 team modes where like it's more not only about like aiming, it's also about dodging, picking the right weapon. And in that situation, I think they're like better players, but pure aim wise, I think Tox is the best.
So let's go into that. Who are the better players? Who do you say in combat skills alone? Because I think
um
you're right. That is a different.
I think that in combat skills, people that like always amazed me the most were mm, probably Noctis from
Mhm.
people I played against, because no matter what in sacrifice, it felt like that this guy taking from any like shit situation for himself, he will like do the maximum damage or like survive like as long as possible. And other two players, I would say Latromi and Silencep.
Mhm.
Like this like three people, were like outstanding combat skills wise for me, and I always felt that they are really like smart in the ways they fight, and I was trying to be like them at some points.
So you didn't name claws, and I was actually expecting you to put claws there potentially somewhere, but
I would
maybe
put him on number 4, maybe.
okay, I see. Because
I think
he's also a pure aim at the same time, isn't
yeah,
he?
I think he's like also he's like more pure aimer, and like the way he moves. But I think like maybe his weapon choice and the way what he can do without weapon is like a bit
well,
putting him lower than that players.
what Xron said is like also in team mode is more about ratio between deal damage and taken damage. This is where like Noctis or Kyle or like Latromi shine, right? Because well, Claw's gonna run in and he's gonna shit tons of damage, but he's also can receive a lot.
Yeah, I
And
see. So just because people will always bring it up, why is Sirius not on these lists? Has he just not proven himself enough, or is it that case like he does damage, but he just also takes a lot? Like
I
I'm not
never
trying to
like
shit stir
saw
here.
him doing good in team modes. Like there
Okay.
were time where him and Strengths were doing really well, I think, before DreamHack tours, and
Mhm.
like
yeah,
even beating Liquid and so on. And there were people putting a lot of hopes in them, but they placed last in the tournament, I think.
Yeah,
And
fair.
like I think he also had one more shot with FaZe, maybe he played at some DreamHack.
Mhm.
But I think he still was taken more like a dueler, and people were like praising his aim and so on. But I don't think that he was doing better aim wise than Tox or
the other
Claws.
problem is
I
that
see.
on LAN it's also different, right? Because you have like Tox and Close aiming also like amazing on LAN, right? And you have like other people who you don't consider like the best aimers who are really strong aimers on LAN, like Cooler, for example. Or
Mm.
Cypher is a lot. Cypher is big time underestimated with his aim because his aim is like incredible, especially on LAN, you know.
Mm.
So I think that's why I said like I think Sirius, for example, no one of the pros gonna name him as the best player because there's no one who's gonna name him as the best player. But I think his way of shooting and like the way that he always tries to get the highest percentage, it's like really fun to watch for like people who are not really the best at the game and they're watching streams. It's just nice to watch.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I'm going to start going to questions because actually we've got chat starting to pile up. Since this says, why is Ron's rail pillow pink and not green? You see, we've got conflicting rail pillow here. To be
Uh,
fair, there's a much nicer story, I think, with Ron's than mine.
You wanna ask like why is pink color on the
Holy
pillow?
shit! I just realized you got a ponytail, dude. Your hair is so long.
Yeah, of
What
course,
the
bro.
hell?
Yeah, I'm surviving on quarantine, my
that's
friend.
that's a fair point. It's going rubbish here too. So, oh god. Talk about your rel pillow for a second while I fix my hair.
So it was LAN in Italy, Luca in 2018, I think, and it was like a gift from a viewer. So it was like really nice.
That's awesome, dude. That's really
I
awesome.
think it was like the only like gift I ever got like from a viewer on event. So it was like really nice, and of course I like saved it and put it there.
Of course,
Nice.
by the trophies as well. Question from Robcore V2. We talked this like right before we went live, I think. Any news on the stage 4 finals, online or chance of LAN? Is there concrete information on that yet?
Yeah, I think it's like we can officially said that it's gonna be played on the internet because like I spoke many times with like managers with John and Tokyo. They said that it's no problem because they have a deal with ESL to have a studio in Katowice. They have 2 studios, and there is nothing going on for CS for ESL, so they are basically empty everywhere. And people need jobs and admins, and so it's not a problem. But judging by the situations, like there is no way Europe gonna open up for USA, and then what? You can't fly in the people from there. You also even if Europe will be chilled down in a month, I don't imagine flying over like so many Europeans with like who need to like get visa, and it will be a mess basically, and many
Yeah.
of them wouldn't like come. So I think the safest way to do that is like to make it online, and then if like other season comes up, I think keep doing it online, because I think the Quake is the only game outside of the all which didn't lose on the coronavirus situation, because
Yeah.
our main like idea of the game was QPL, which was played online as a league, right? So I think Quake get out of the situation really strong compared to CS, for example, like tier
Totally
1
fair.
biggest like majors, of course.
Yeah. There's another question actually from Rob. And we're going to start with Zenaku on this one. Do you think any champion needs to be changed, and which one and why? And I'd say this more in like a sort of a balance type of way. Is there anyone who's like really underpowered that you'd bring up, or the opposite?
I think Slash is. I mean, it's a classic. It's just like a little bit, like just slightly too fast, to the point where like there are some scenarios where like you just can't. If she enters a certain way, it's like you just literally can't do anything. Whereas it feels like you should be able to do something. And then of course the other classic is Death Knight. Is like they said that they fixed the fireballs, but definitely I don't know. I'm sure there's clips where you with the fireballs like combine on somebody and they still don't catch fire, and it's like pivotal if they catch fire. They never do.
Yeah, I see.
I'd say like that.
Yeah, fair. Hron or Avek, I don't know if you guys got any champ on your mind.
Remove clutch from the game.
I don't.
Yeah, maybe that, but
entirely
most of the
disagree.
champions are like well balanced now. I think in general, Quake for like last few months is well balanced. Like there was always a time when something was like really too strong, like Rocket or this champion. There was always one champion which was OP. Now I can't really name anything which is like totally OP. Yeah, clutch on some maps, but on some other maps, not really. And it's beatable,
Yeah.
not like before, right? So it's not really that
I
big
don't,
of a problem with
maybe
champion.
because I'm not great, but Athena on Blood Covenant I find very difficult to deal with. I find that like a stressful game to play, but that's usually because I like to play Nyx there. And Hron explained to me at one, it was a Hron event, I can't remember who it was, said like, actually, Athena is just a really good counter to Nyx. So, maybe there's an approach there that I'm not thinking about. Let's move on to the next one. Baldora asking, have any of you guys tried out the new map on PTS? I think it's called, what is it called? God, I had it in my mind. It's Koth.
Tower of something.
Tower of Koth or something like that. Yeah, any thoughts? Can it be a duel map? I don't know if any of you even played it.
Since there is for now, from what I know, they're gonna add it to the game for like ranking games, but they're not gonna add it for like pros, professional players to the league. So I haven't played it.
I was going to add in duel.
from what I know, they want to add it in duel and for like everybody to play it in ranking games. If it's still the case, I don't know. Maybe they changed their mind. But for now on, at least for this year, the map won't be in the map pool for pro players.
I see. Have you played it, Zenaku?
Yeah, I've played it a couple times. It does. A lot of people complain that it's like too big, but I really think that like, I mean, they do talk about the teleporters, and I think if you take certain routes, you can actually like the map's fine. And I think the way that it's designed, it's actually like it's different and it doesn't play like the other maps, so it's actually great. It's actually doing very well, I think.
Okay.
Mm.
Ron, did you try it out at all?
No, I didn't touch PTS.
Okay, that's fair. Because I know that some players have like this this style where they, or this approach where they literally won't play anything but a current client because that's what they compete on. I remember once someone so strict with it was Lincoln. It was when he was competing in Shoot Mania. And I asked him, why don't you come join a pickup game or something on Quake? And he's like, I'm not even going to any other game because if anything makes me alter the way that I perceive aiming with rail compared to how I aim with it in Shoot Mania, then it damages my chances. And obviously that game though depends, like you have to hit your stuff. Av3k talked about his majestic experiences with Cypher and Strengths. So yeah, I thought that's pretty strict. And I often say that like players might not play like PTS or other clients because the focus, that's not where they earn their money, right?
I think what is very interesting for people, as you said before, it's like aiming. I also wanted to ask before the question to Xron and Zenaku, maybe Xron could start. Like, how can you, as a pro player already, how can you improve your mechanical skills, like your aiming? Like specific weapons, LG rail, because it's different, right? Like hit scans, projectiles. Any idea? What should you do?
I think that in the end, there are no player who is good with everything. You always will be better with one thing and like worse with another. It's like impossible to be good at everything. So you just need to like find what you like and maybe like develop this style. If you feel that uh, I'm personally like not using any Kovac trainers and so on, and I think that the best way to improve your aim is to actually play the game. And
Mm.
I think even playing any FPS game can help you like aim better in like other FPS game. You know, there are similar guns. Like some movements are faster. That like after playing one game where movement is faster, then you come back to the game where movement is slower. It's easier to aim and so on. So I think that best practice is just playing, and the more you play, the better you aim. But if you like dreaming to be best with end projectile and hit scan, I think it's just impossible. For example, I suck with LG, and like no matter how much I was trying to practice like LG using only LG, it's like it never made me, and it will never make me as good as like let's say talks with LG or something like that. It's impossible. Like I have like my strong sides with weapons, and I need to like rely on it, and other will always be like on another level.
I don't know if you had anything to add actually, Zenaku, otherwise I was going to take another question.
I'll also something really quick because I think it actually like it can be quite good. Is like I found that when I, especially when you play like FFA or if you play like when you are playing duel, if you really like consciously think about how you're moving the mouse, I know that sounds like kind of weird, but especially when I do things with rocket or if I shoot with the rail, like there are certain things that like you realize you'll kind of make a mistake with, like I don't know, flicking your wrist a certain way or moving the mouse a certain way. And I think over time, if you really are like, you don't have to think about it. Like later on, you won't be thinking about it, but you can actually see how some people are actually making mistakes based on like their actual physical structure. Sounds like stupid, but to some extent, some players are actually very good at different things because of actually like how they're mentally thinking and yeah, how they're moving their mouse a certain way, I would say.
This is an interesting question that someone's bringing up. Kato in chat. He's asking two things, but firstly, Horon, are you using this is really generally about like key mapping, but it's starting with Horon. Do you use low sense like you used with in CS? What do you jump with? How close is your Quake config to your CS config?
So as a CS player, I had like really low sense. It was like 63 centimeters for 360.
Damn.
And when I played Quake, I didn't feel that it's too slow. In Quake, it was enough for me. I don't know
Wow.
why when I think about it back then, but it was fine. And I think even Quakecon in 2017, I won with this low sense. Because like I don't know, I just didn't feel uncomfortable.
You have big arm muscles, though.
Yeah, and then after playing some random Overwatch with Avek in maybe 2018 or something, I was like, "Fuck, my sense is too slow. I need to speed it up a bit," and I increased it a bit, and it became 53 centimeters for 360. And right now, I think I'm not sure if it was again Overwatch with you, Avek, but I played something in December in the end of 2019, and I again felt that my sensitivity is too slow, and I changed it for a bit higher. Now I'm like on 43 centimeters for
Wow.
360. But usually I'm trying to like never switch anything. I feel it's all about like personal preference. Maybe I'm just becoming more lazy, so I don't want to like move my hand so much anymore. So I increase it a bit. But I think it's all about personal preference. Like low sense is fine.
So quick around the board. What do you guys all use for your jump bind in Quake?
Space.
Space.
Mouse 2 for me.
Mouse 2 as well. And I started Avek there. Bloody spacebar scrap. No, I'm just incredibly biased. Has this developed though? Have you changed your keybinds as you've played, or have you kept like the same keybinds the entire time, and maybe only your field of view or your sensitivity or whatever changes? Zenaku, have you done much swapping around?
Not so much. Although I think that there is actually good logic to changing the key map. So I've literally actually used pretty much the standard, like as you like. If you open up Quake Champions, what it would like actually be? I'm pretty sure mine's actually like almost identical to that.
Really? Is that what they're like? Is it like WASD then 1 to 8 or something?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I thought Rockets and LG Rail are still QER. Or
I don't even know. So yeah.
The only thing I think I do is change nail gun from F to T, but everything's like in the same area. So
wow. Okay.
yeah.
Avek, have you changed much over the period? Because it's difficult to change when if you've done like Mouse 2 for years, changing that it feels.
Well, I'm using Mouse 2 only in Quake. For example, all other games I'm using jump on spacebar. Like CS, Valorant, Overwatch, other games I use spacebar.
Why on Quake are you using Mouse 2?
I don't know. I just started to play like this, and I never wish to change because it feels like natural for me. But I can use both buttons for like jumping. It's no problem. I'm only changing sensitivity, basically.
I see.
Sometimes I'm making it higher, sometimes lower. I feel like the higher you set it up, the better movement you're getting. Like you have easier time with movement, your movement is more flawless, and the more you make it down, the better your aim is sometimes.
Xron, have you done much changing of your keybinds? Like if you've changed from CS to Quake, I say change, like you play both, but did you have to really think about where you were going to map, or how you're going to map the keys?
I just like in Quake Live, I randomly binded like all weapons around VASD, and I just stick to it. And like jumping on spaces, because in CS you jump on mouse wheel, but in Quake Live you couldn't bind jump to mouse wheel for some reason. That's why I was using space and still using space in Quake.
Fair play, fair play. Question from Tail Whipper. Maybe this is inflicting drama, but because Kilson came on and wants to play 2v2 with Avek, but if 2v2 came up next Quick Pro League circuit, who would you partner up with? Avek, Xron, I know that you guys are like you're inseparable socially. Would you play with each other in 2v2?
Well, of course, like as I said before, I played with Cypher and Kilson, and I was more than happy with them because we had great results. But as I talked with Xron like earlier, like I think it would be really the best to try to play together on time because we always had great results. So why not give it a shot and try to actually make a team who can win Rafa and the Hunk finally?
Zenaku, do you have someone you want to play 2v2 with already, or if any player was available to you, who would you pick someone?
I actually think that like Steej and I would make a good, like the other Australian player Steej would make a really good 2v2 team, but I think he's too arrogant. He wants to play with Dan too much, so that would never happen. But I'd love to play actually with Steej, funnily enough.
Fair play. There's a question from Hadi1234 for Av3k. Seems like you can counter base better than most other players. Like Cypher can counter Rafa, it seems. Do you have a secret for this?
I don't really think in this way. I think especially now, I think there was more style clashes before in Quake Live than it is now. I think everybody more or less plays like similar way, especially on LAN. A lot of people trying to get like a lot of control and stick to it, and they playing more aggressive. They doing less mistakes. Yes, base of course is specific, and he's much slower, and he can hit sometimes like really crazy rails like flicking. So you need to be aware of that. The biggest problem with base is that you never like know where he can be, so you need to expect everything.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't really feel like I'm doing much better against base than against other players.
Interesting. I'm going to ask one last question because we've basically been an hour and a half now, yeah, these podcasts are just slowly getting longer and longer, which is pretty much fine by me. One from HC Al Maral. Do you guys think that sharing the same native language play a huge part in comms on team modes, or are players able to communicate well enough in like a common language like English? I think probably Av3k or Xron, you may have had more experience with this, and we know that like Wenger and Base team together, and like, neither of them really spoke English, if I'm totally honest.
The best story I heard was when they team up and Base couldn't speak English at all, and first what he learned in English was numbers to give timings, and he couldn't learn like 27, so he was saying 27. So he learned everything from 1 to 10, and he was like mega 1-1. Mega 1-8, you know, this is more or less their communication.
So cute,
Of course,
though,
if there is such big barrier in the language, then of course, like you cannot be the best. Let's be honest, right? But the more important is like what kind of player you have in your team, because you can speak the same language and the guy will still have problem communicating because he will be like focusing on other things too much, and or he just like is not used to like communication. But people who played like team games and they played like at least like semi-professionally or like on amateur level like CS, Overwatch, and everywhere else, where you actually constantly need to give out the info. You constantly need to inform your people what's going on the map because you actually cannot see the whole like 3D picture from above. Then you will most likely do fine, even if it's like foreign language.
Yeah. Any experiences, Zenaku or Xron, with this different comms? I mean, I think in the European sense, well, actually, Xron as well as Av3k, speaking Ukrainian, Russian, English, etc. Surely you've had some run-ins of this.
It's a lot easier, of course, to communicate. Like if for both people, it's like native language, and I think that in every team play game, maybe in older times where like gameplay level was not that high, it was more about like individual skill. But nowadays, in like every team game, in every competition, from what I see, it's all about the like actual team. They're like you don't like solo win the game, so like individually
Yeah.
and so on. It's all about team play in the end, and communication is a key thing in team play.
So,
Like you need to be able to sacrifice your individual whatever you want to hit, but you need to like speak. You need to understand that like giving out info it should be like higher priorities and maybe your own comfort and so on, and
yeah.
only then you can succeed in team play, in my opinion.
So when you played Silent Sep, Latromi, Claws yourself, you were speaking in English for Silent Sep, I'd imagine.
Yes,
Or
we all spoke English because of
see.
Silence Up. Yeah.
And was that strange adaptation for you or the team, or because you guys play around Europeans anyway, was it quite normal?
I think it maybe was a bit like problematic for Latromi to speak because like me and Claude like speak English a lot, so it wasn't a big problem. But I think maybe it will sound like funny, but in Quake, it's impossible to even gather a team of or 4 people who will be able to shoot and speak in the same time. So it was not a big deal that maybe Latromi wasn't speaking sometimes, like he and so on, because like in Quake, a lot of people are not able to do it anyway. So maybe like in America it's easier, but I still like see even when I like look to V2, like people are just not able to speak and shoot at the same time. So for me, it's pretty hilarious.
So as I remember, it's like you and Carl were the sort of architects of the team. Was there ever a time where Carl or Silent Sep is saying something and you've got to be like, Latromian, and you say something in Russian to like help him understand? Or was it?
Yeah,
doing-
when we had some. It was usually Latromi that will start speaking Russian because like he wanna say something fast,
Right.
to explain to us, and
I see.
because he can't like explain it in English, he was like just saying Russian to like say it as soon as possible, and I think it was good, like because me and Klaus would understand it, and if you like translate it to Kyle or something, if like it's still like valid information or something.
As long as someone understands what I'm doing, just
Yeah, or he would just start whining in Russian, and like we would start shit talking each other, like typical team talk, So
fair,
it was
fair.
really fun times.
No, awesome. Guys, I'm going to pretty much end things there. Thanks everyone for all of your questions. You've been awesome. Before I roll out, I want to give everybody their last words. Zenaku's been fantastic having you on. Any last comments?
No, thanks for having me. Just really looking forward to the future of Quake and how things are going to go, I guess. So.
Awesome. Xron, any last words from you, sir?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Wanna say big thanks to Quake and to all people who watch this podcast, support Quake and so on. It's like really awesome that there are still things happening, even like with all this virus and things. We're still like playing, having fun, and we still have some, not biggest, but nice community. So it's really nice, and I hope that I'll be able to play more and contribute to the community more.
Awesome. Av3k, my brother.
Big brother from another mother. Big shout outs to Zenaku and Xron for coming in. It was a great show and interesting podcast, I think. Also, like if you guys want more podcasts, will be great if you support us. So make sure to watch it on YouTube later on when it's like uploaded. Hit the likes and subscribe so we can grow, because it's like important nowadays to keep continue what we are doing, because we're investing our time. It's like a lot of like it's pretty hard actually to get like some kind of players. For example, we wanted also to get Tox, but it's like communication with Tox is like pretty hard. He's shy of cameras, so it's like pretty difficult thing. Also, we are trying to improve, and I think it was you, Zoot, or Kilson accused me when we were speaking about like podcast that I was sitting in a tank top because it was like 35 degrees outside.
I was only
And you said,
playing with you.
why you are not in your merge? So look, now I'm in my merge with endpoint merge. Not only one, not only two,
Oh,
but you can also game over. You see, three merges, guys. So this is how I improve. I also will
and
try
you
to
took your
improve.
hair even more as well.
Yeah, of course. I every time I put it higher and higher as it's getting longer. So I hope everything's gonna be improving. And that's it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Endpoint and Pete, for like always like organizing it for us, and thank you for like leading this thing, Xavier.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. So same comments from me. Thanks, Team Endpoint. Thank you, Zenaku. Xron, who I think I'm doing well with his name this podcast because I'm feeling particularly, motivated. And Av3k. Okay, I'm sorry. I just had to. Yeah, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. As Av3k said, do let us know some people that you'd love to get us to try and jump on the podcast for the next one, and we'll see you around the corner. See you later, everyone.